In this episode of the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast, I'm going to beg for your attention by covering the oft-recorded If I Could Get Your Attention. And by covering this track, I'm breaking one of my own rules about discussing songs written by Prince and first recorded by other artists. I traditionally have not covered songs Prince wrote for other artists unless there's a leaked or officially released version of Prince's guide vocals available. I've not been able to uncover the original guide vocal track for this particular song, which has seen Jill Jones, Taja Savell, and Mayte Garcia record their takes on the song. Some of them released, some of them not. However, there is a Prince vocal version out there, but it's the re-recorded version from 2014. So I guess that's why I'm covering it. So there's still... the lyrics are the same between the 2014 version that Prince re-recorded for the most part. I'll cover any subtle differences. But, the original 1986 guide vocal version is not available. So that's why I'm breaking the rules, because I typically have only covered Prince's originals in his vocals, not the artists who ultimately recorded the song. I could have waited to cover the song much later, around the time Prince released it on Tidal in 2014, but since it was written in 1986 and the lyrics primarily remain unchanged, I wanted to discuss it now as I go through the Parade and Sign of the Times studio sessions book, because it's discussed in that book. So the song was recorded in May of 1986 at Sunset Sound Studios. A couple of months later is when Prince Vault estimates Jill Jones's vocal version was recorded. So they estimate Jill was the first one to record her version, her vocal version, in the summer of 1986. The song was not included on Jill's debut solo album that was released in 1987, however. And about a year later is when Taja Savell likely recorded her vocal version, and this is the version that ultimately was released on her solo debut album on Paisley Park Records, also in 1987. Basically, Prince swapped one female vocalist for another in this case. But possibly because Taja's album didn't really blow up the way he had hoped, or because he loved the song that much, he decided to let Mayte, his girlfriend at the time, and a member of the New Power generation, take a crack at it. And Mayte recorded her version in mid to late 1993 with intention to be included on her debut solo album, which at the time was being called Latin Barbie Doll. But when the actual album, Child of the Sun, was released 2 years later in 1995, this song wasn't on it. So two different vocalists recording versions of the song for their debut albums that neither of them ended up getting released, Jill Jones, Mayte Garcia, and then another female vocalist that Prince gave the song to, Taja Savell, did get her version released on her debut solo album. So, a little bit of a convoluted history with the song. I'm not sure why he chose to return to it in the early to mid-90s to record it again, even though it had already found a home on Taja's album. It's a strange decision, but I think ultimately he realized it wasn't maybe the right fit, or, hey, why am I doing this? I've got other songs, new songs that have not been recorded by anyone. Why bother having Mayte sing it? Maybe it was just a practice run at a song too for Mayte. Maybe there was never really any intention of it being released on one of her albums. So now we got to flash forward 21 years, and Prince has recorded another take of the song with his vocals on it, and released on the Tidal streaming service in 2014. The song, while released officially, it was never included on one of Prince's albums, so it would have been maybe a solid fit for Hit and Run Phase 2, which was kind of a collection of previously released songs for the most part, so it would have made sense for that project, but it wasn't included on that either. And so Another thing to note is the officially released Taja Savell version has an additional verse towards the end of the song that, according to Princeveld, was written by Taja. I'm not going to cover that because Prince didn't write that, and this is a Prince lyrics podcast. I'm only going to cover the lyrics that Prince wrote that could be heard on the 2014 version and any of the leaked Maite and Jill versions and the first two verses and chorus and bridge of the Taja Savell version from 1987. So now that we've gotten kind of the background out of the way and understanding of what I'm going to be doing on this particular episode, let's get into the lyrics. If I could get your attention, I'd tell you so. From the top of your head right down to your toes. I want you, baby, my darling, you've got to know. If I could get your attention, I'd tell you so. And that is how the song starts. It kicks off with the chorus. So one of those songs where Prince leads it off with a telling of the chorus, the singing of the chorus. And, right off the bat, we get the impression that the singer wants the attention of the person that they're in love with. But it appears as if that person that they are in love with simply doesn't have the time for them. Either they don't know they exist, or their relationship isn't as fulfilling as the singer wants it to be. So I guess it could be one of either situations. Situation where the singer wants to grab the attention of the object of their affection, but that object is a bit oblivious or clueless or, just not understanding the kind of attraction this unknown person to them has for them. Or the situation is they do know each other, they do have maybe some sort of relationship, but it's not the kind of relationship that the singer is looking for. It's not as fulfilling, it's not as deep, it's not as connected. And they're vying for this person's attention who's seemingly being split in many different directions, and we'll get a little bit more into that into the first verse at least. I'm getting flustered, don't know what to do. You've been working every night since 2:15. If you would just stop so I could tell you my line, take a look in my eyes, you'll see we're two of a kind. And this verse is where we do get a very minor lyrical difference. So in the Taja Savell version, towards the end of the verse, she says, if you would just stop so I could tell you my line, take a look at my body, you'll see we're two of a kind. Prince says, if you would just stop so I could tell you my line, take a look in my eyes, you'll see we're two of a kind. And that's the lyrics that I just repeated for the episode, because that's the Prince version. But that is a difference. So Prince wrote it originally with the lyric, take a look at my body, but then when he rewrote it for himself later, it was take a look in my eyes. So the person seems to be a workaholic, and I guess, Prince maybe saw a little bit of himself in the lyrics of this song when he was writing it. Maybe he thought of himself as, the object of the affection of the person who he was going to give it to sing, and, originally gave it to Jill, and as we kind of have uncovered in over the past few decades, Jill was one of those people that Prince kept around, kept close to him. They had a relationship, but it didn't ultimately end in marriage or even probably full-time monogamy. So, part of that is Prince was a workaholic. He was always busy. He was always spreading himself very thin, professionally, personally, and, could never maybe quite vie for his 100% dedicated attention. It was never really solely dedicated to her or to maybe any of his girlfriends. And so this is maybe a character flaw that he saw himself while he was writing it. Like, okay, well, these girls seem to want me to spend more time with them, give them more attention than I am willing to give or able to give. So let me write a song from the perspective of some of these women that I have around me that have wanted more from me than I can give them at this time. So it's one potential interpretation. But what I do also get is the singer wants this person to take a break, spend some time with them, give them some of the attention they are saving for their work. The workaholic comment again that I made. The tell you my line, maybe just to, have a chat, not necessarily a line to pick him up, but maybe it's that as well. Maybe their relationship is completely fabricated, as I suggested, imaginary, and the singer still feels like they need to woo the object of their affection. So that's where the, stop and tell you my line comes from, potentially. And this person's hopeful that the object of their affection will just see they were meant to be if they could just get their attention. And that's when it kind of bleeds right into the chorus again. If I could get your attention, I'd tell you so. From the top of your head right down to your toes. I want you, baby, my darling, you've got to know. If I could get your attention, I'd tell you so. And then in verse 2, the lines are, baby, I'm getting flustered, don't know what to say. What'll it take to get you, baby, tear you away? Do I have to scream at the top of my lungs until I sing you? You know you ain't been sung. So the singer is still trying to grab the person's attention, getting flustered by maybe lack of success in achieving that goal. This is the part where the singer screams, do I have to scream at the top of my lungs? And in every version of this song, whoever is singing it, they do that. And this is maybe where I'll you guys do a compare and contrast of the different screams. Jill's scream. Do I have to scream at the top of my lungs until I sing you? You know you ain't been sung. I could get your attention and tell you so. Taj's scream. Do I have to scream at the top of my lungs until I sing you? You know you ain't been sung. I could get your attention and tell you so. Maite's scream. Do I have to scream at the top of my lungs until I do ya? You know you ain't been done. Get your attention and tell you so. In Prince's scream. Do I have to scream at the top of my lungs until I sing ya? You know you ain't been done. Which scream do you think is the most effective in grabbing your attention? So if you're listening to the song and you're trying, the attempt of the scream is to grab your attention, which one do you think is most successful? I personally think Jill's scream is the most successful, but that's just my opinion. I would love to hear yours. And then we get into the chorus again. I won't repeat it because there's literally nothing different from what I've already said twice. Then we get a bit of what I call a bridge. Darling, can't you see what it's all about? Do I have to scream? Do I have to shout? Would you like it better if I talked real soft? Why don't you just tell me what'll get you off? And I didn't mention it in the previous verse, but, until I sing ya, you know you ain't been sung. I think it has sexual connotations to it, that phrase. I think it's more of a way of saying, until I do ya, you ain't been done. The Continental from the Symbol album has that, do you want to be done, or something along those lines. So I think it's something like that. It's just Prince used the word sing and sung instead of do and done. So it's a bit of an innuendo, and we get another more blatant innuendo in the bridge when, why don't you just tell me what'll get you off? So here, getting off, get off, jack you off. Getting off is a more of aggressive way to get someone's attention for sure. And at this point, the singer, I think, is really just being very upfront. There's no more beating around the bush, no pun intended. Do I have to scream? Do I have to shout? What do you want? Do you want me to talk softly? Do you want me to, is screaming not working for you? Do you want me to be more demure? Do you want me to be more shy acting and speak to you softly and more calmly? And honestly, just tell me what it'll take to get you off. And if that means like get you off physically, sexually, or get you interested, just tell me. Clearly, I'm not succeeding. I'm not having a very easy time at getting your attention. And I feel like if you would just tell me, I could make it happen for you. So this singer is definitely under the impression that all it would take is a little bit of attention, a little bit of time, and they would be able to get this person's attention and allow them to see the real them and see the value that they have, and ultimately, spark a relationship as a result. A real relationship, at least. So then the song just goes back into the chorus a bit more. Towards the end, there is the, if I could get your attention, I'd turn you on. 7 kisses and all of your cool be gone. I'd love you good, you know I'd love you long. If I could get your attention, I'd turn you on. So we're getting more of a, again, some more sexual innuendo here, and real more blatant attempts at being sexual and attempts at being physically appealing. Kissing, 7 kisses. Of course, it's got to be 7. How many kisses does it take? The answer is 7. It's always going to be 7. Taking away the cool. You seem cool, calm, and collected when you're working and when you're busy, but I can basically, turn you into a bowl of mush if I could just kiss you and get your attention and turn you on. And if I could do all of that, that would be all it would take. So let's take a look at what the book has to say. On Saturday, May 10th, 1986, and this is a quote from Jill Jones, he always created a skeleton and he added what he liked, different voices and so on. He did not need anyone. If he needed someone else, he could manage with his alter egos. It was fascinating. I had the same vocal register as him, and I could also do the high notes that he could not reach, so he could also call me for that. Re-recorded If I Could Get Your Attention and other titles, but that did not correspond to me vocally. A little too cheerful, while I have a pretty dark temperament. I can be playful in the chorus, but not when I'm the lead singer on a piece. And that's after Jill's quote. When Prince was in a playful mood, it would be found in his music, but also in his doodles and his creative license with names. For this track, he referred to himself as Percy Begonia, a pseudonym he'd used since his second album. It can be found on his handwritten lyrics for I Feel For You, which was written in the late 1970s, and as recently as the lyrics for Go in 1985. Percy Begonia sounds like a made-up thing, remembers Jill Jones. Percy Begonia, or Percy, because it would always be like this kind of African-American old-ass name. Something really that nobody would be. That's how you could almost tell it was a pseudonym for anything, or a nickname, because really it would be a name nobody was using. Percy! Not to take away from all the Percys out there. Prince created If I Could Get Your Attention, as he often did, by starting with the live drums and building the layers on top, this time strongly featuring the Fairlight. He added his own vocal scratch to the track, but it was likely not considered for a Prince release, and was always going to be offered to other singers, including Jill and Taja Savell, who both sang lead, as well as background vocals on this overtime. Status: If I Can Get Your Attention was released on Taja Savell's eponymous debut album in September of 1987. It did not chart in the United States, but peaked at number 48 in the UK in early 1988. In 1993, Maite recorded a demo of the track, but it was not released on her CD. Prince released a re-recorded version now titled If I Could Get Your Attention, with EYE replacing the letter I, on November 9th, 2015 via Tidal. And that is all there is about If I Could Get Your Attention. Okay, so fun little track. I like all the versions, but Taja's is the official, the official protege version, and then Prince's 21st century version is his own. So it's his song, one of the rare times that he re-recorded a version of a song so many years later, even after it was recorded by another artist on his own label. Like, he just didn't do that. He didn't re-record versions of songs that were given to other artists and recorded and released. Just didn't do it very often. You know, Nothing Compares to You is an example, but that was likely sparked because, of course, of the success that Sinead's cover had made him want to re-record it and kind of reclaim it. This had no success, very, very little to no success, especially in the United States. So for him to re-record it so many decades later is an interesting choice that he made. Don't fully understand the whys behind it, don't need to. It's just apparently a song that he enjoyed singing and wanted to finally get a version of it out there with his voice on it, and make it his own. All right, so that is If I Could Get Your Attention. Thank you for listening. This has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. You can find the show on social media at pressrewind.net. And until next time, thank you very much, and goodbye.